Hey everybody, Tom Barnish, Chicago Scene on the road. And if you've been to New York in the last, I don't know, 70, 100 years, you know that I am staring at the Washington Square Park Arch. And that's where I'm at right now in Washington Square Park. Kind of doing a whole weekend getaway. I've done my Chicago Scenes on the roads for a one-take road trip. Well, this is a one fly-away weekend trip. That's what I'm calling it. Just a Friday, Saturday, come home Sunday type of thing. But my first stop, it's gotta be the Empire State Building, but I'm gonna do that. Then I give you a hotel with a really cool view of said Empire State Building, and then kind of walk around and check out some cool things about New York. Maybe, you know, some things off the beaten path, like where the Ghostbusters house is, where the Friends house is, the High Line, and of course, Central Park. And then we'll see what else I get into. Maybe even the Statue of Liberty, we'll see. But that is the Chicago Scene here in Central Park. And you know what? I think I'm just gonna walk around a little bit, just to give you an idea of this Washington Square Park, because it is absolutely beautiful. And today, for some reason, I don't know if this is a thing that they have all the time, but there is a ton happening here. They got street vendors going on here. There is the Freedom Tower out in the distance. For people who might want to know, you can go on the observatory deck there. Also, they have one at the Empire State Building that, like I said, I'm going to show that in a second. But this is like a meeting spot for people to come and hang out and enjoy their time. There's, you know, not a ton of green space in certain parts of the city. Of course, you got Central Park, and then you have these little parks. This is not so little. This is a big one. You have these parks in the middle of the city where there's a subline to get you just about anywhere. But it is amazing, great vibe, and that is going to be the Chicago Scene, New York style. We'll finish up maybe in Jersey. We might find a brewery started up by a South Side Chicagoan who moved out here to New York and eventually ended up in Jersey, called Lions Roar. We're gonna hit that a little bit later on in this video, but for now, just enjoy my time here in this park, because look at that view. It's incredible. And you get to be serenaded by a band. Good times. All right, I made my way over to the Empire State Building. I gotta tell you, it's not a hard thing to miss. It's this giant building right in the middle of Midtown Manhattan, home to movies like Sleepless in Seattle, Elf, where, you know, Buddy the Elf's dad worked at, Walter Hobbs. Also, you know, King Kong, Affair to Remember, the whole thing. I'm gonna go inside and take a look. You go up to the 86th floor, then you go up to the 102nd floor, but they just did a huge reno in the inside for the observation deck, where they kind of give you this immersive experience on how it was built. I mean, this thing was built like in 13 months. It was built super quick. And then up, of course, at the top. So I'm gonna go inside, take a tour, see what it's all about for this Chicago Scene segment in New York City. So let's go inside and take a look, shall we?
All right, so first things first, you've seen the building in countless movies and TV shows, and that's for good reason. According to Cornell University, it's the most photographed building in the entire world, giving it the crown of world's most famous building. It took an army of men that topped out at nearly 3,400 each day, taking them just 20 months from start to completion of the entire building, with the skyscraper soaring 1,454 feet in a mere 410 days. And long has it been that the Empire State Building has been part of the New York City skyline, movies, and its pop culture since its debut of May in 1931. And of course, there's that big giant King Kong movie that made famous, but we're going to get to that in a second. With over 4 million people visiting it each year, it's a must-see stop in New York City. And long gone are the days when you walked into a lobby, waited in rope lines, and took one elevator ride up. Nope, that's all gone. The observatory experience has been completely reimagined and remodeled with a $165 million makeover with their new 90 and 90 tour. It's commemorating the 90th birthday of the building with a complete interactive 10,000 square foot walking museum experience. Starting off with a newly dedicated guest entrance on the 34th Street side of the building. There you're going to be entrenched immediately in the storied history of the building, seeing this famous lighting switch where honored guests will have the privilege of flipping that switch to illuminate the top of the building's historic tower lights, serving as a beacon of proper New York City pride. And from that area, you're going to be whisked away into a plethora of history of the building. You're going to make your way through the experience, walking past a replica of the building itself. And let me tell you, you walk your way through the experience. You don't even know you're walking your way through it, because there's all these things to read on the sides and all that. And then you see this massive replica of the building. It's just one thing after another that leads itself into another room of drawings and plans of the building before it was built, using those very plans to create the Empire State Building that we all know and see today. But it's in this room that takes you back to 1920s New York. It's where you get to be able to feel like you're walking the streets of New York City and see how it looked, down to like looking through these little viewfinders and seeing a motion picture playing in these viewfinders. It's an incredible experience. It makes it completely interactive and immersive, and it makes you feel like you're a part of the history, jumping off the walls and into this room. And each well-thought-out room blends into another. You don't even know you're walking to one space for another, like when you walk into the time-lapse video room, where you see the building going up and the calendar pages flipping off the wall. It's a fascinating view on just how fast it went up. Completely immersive again. You feel like you're there, and it's just another way to see that skyscraper soaring into the Manhattan sky. And from there, perhaps the most immersive experience yet on this walking tour that is a museum, you get to walk into a room where you feel like you are part of the building process, because you walk onto a floor of the building where you have this bird's eye view and almost eavesdropping vibe of the workers assembling the building beam by beam, down to the rivets of them throwing it back and forth. And I'm not talking rivets that are small. These are red hot rivets that these men throw back and forth to each other to complete the building, and really see the team building effort that did make this building go up in a mere 20 months. Take a listen.
1/4 of a mile high to start, folks. 1/4 of a mile high. Hey there, sir. You would like to appreciate a thrill?
It's a pretty interesting look at what life was like for these men back in 1930 and 31. Building the world's tallest building at the time, pushing engineering to its absolute max, including to this day, they're trying to get this building ready by 2030 to be completely carbon neutral. So innovation is a thing, and you're looking at something else here. It is the elevator system that Otis Elevator Company had to specially build for the Empire State Building. It gets into the mechanisms of how they got the elevator up there, showing the motors and everything else. Another true engineering feat and a great display for you to check out. But perhaps the best and coolest thing is the pop culture side of this entire thing. You walk through some of the space where you see some of the most iconic movie posters, comic book characters, cartoons, everything else. You walk into this room and there's a plethora of movies playing on the screen, all separate and then all together all at once. It really is a cool reminder of what this building has meant for so many people and so many movies throughout history. So take a look real quick. So you get movies from Crocodile Dundee that I forgot about, to even maybe the iconic Sleepless in Seattle with that famous scene at the end, to a really cool exhibit that you walk through that is immersive in itself, and it's King Kong. It's like you're in the building being attacked by King Kong, so much so that you can like walk up and sit in his palm of his hand and feel like, and take a really cool picture of King Kong holding you, or if you have somebody with you that's a big King Kong fan. This is the perfect opportunity for it. Something that I've never really seen in any of the exhibits I've gone into in some of these skyscrapers.
Welcome to the world's most famous building, and you get to see it built.
So after you're in that awesome King Kong exhibit, you make your way to an elevator bank, and usually elevator rides are not worth talking about, but this is a little different. Part of the new reimagined space is that you get this elevator ride where you go up through the history, literally, of the building of the Empire State Building. This is what you get when you go to the 80th floor. You get to ride in this elevator, and you get to experience another viewpoint of what life was like building the Empire State Building. So take a listen.
Hey, Bucky, you gonna ride that thing all day? Do something useful, will ya? All right, we're coming up to the 80th floor. You're headed to the top of the Empire State Building right here in the heart of New York City.
All right, so once you get off the elevator, you're on the 80th floor. And for people who might not have done the 80th floor before, you just think you go to 86. No, you go to the 80th floor, and it's an enclosed space, but it is full of exhibits and interactive things that you can take a look at, artwork, all sorts of things. But maybe one of the coolest aspects is you get to walk around a space where it has all these highlights of New York City and where they are in relation to where you are in the building. So you get to kind of look through the viewfinders to see where these things are and get a unique space, and you don't have to worry about the elements at all when you're in this space, because you kind of just take your time, mosey on through, waiting for your chance to go up to 86, because 86 it really is the spot that you want to take a look at. All right, so once you're done with the 80th floor, you go up to 86, and that's what you're seeing right now. You got this lobby area, you're walking through, filled with windows. It's really pretty, and then you walk through the doors like she's walking through right here, and you have your Sleepless in Seattle moment. And that's what you're looking at right here as you kind of make your way down the pathway here. And there you see the American flags on top of the building, and down that way right there in that corner is the Sleepless in Seattle moment, I've been told. And that's where, you know, Meg Ryan comes out, sees the little kid, Tom Hanks comes, the whole thing happens. That's in that little area right there. But this is the view, and right now you're looking at the East River right here in Manhattan. And again, this is Midtown Manhattan, so these are the views that you get to see. So from the East River, you have the spire right there that you're looking at, and the flags on the building. This is the top of the Empire State Building, so to speak. You know, this is where, for a long time, this is as far high as people can go and look out on the city. But there you have downtown and the Freedom Tower, and you got the two rivers there combining to go into the New York Harbor right there. But it's an incredible view, it really is, and I'm totally lucky because I had the absolute most perfect day. You can even see the Statue of Liberty as you're looking out that way. But then you take a look at walking down on the pathway here on the north end of the building, and you see Central Park coming up here in a second, back that way beyond those buildings. But that's like Times Square back there. There's the Hudson River, and you kind of make your way. It's not a huge space because, I mean, the building is from 1931, but there's plenty of room to walk around and just get this bird's eye view of New York City. It's a really incredible process. All right, so it's fun fact time. The top of the building has the mast on it, and some people think it was originally designed to dock Zeppelins that they travel across the country. People thought it was to be a big thing. Well, we all know that Zeppelins really didn't turn out to do anything, and the folks at Empire State say, yeah, not so much. It wasn't really part of the plans, but you can look on History Channel website, and they do say that there. So for what it's worth, it could have been a docking station for Zeppelins at one point, or at least thought of. But as we make our way south, we're looking down towards the south end of Manhattan. You see the Washington Bridge out in the distance, the Freedom Tower, and the Financial District. And as you scroll over there and you look, that is the Statue of Liberty, which I think is pretty cool. Another thing is that, you know, you can go up to the 102nd floor of the Empire State Building. You go up an elevator shaft that's clear glass that looks right out into the skyline that is Manhattan. And then you finally come up to the 102nd floor, and you have these amazing floor-to-ceiling views of Manhattan, 102 floors up, completely 360 floor-to-ceiling views of the city, which I think is pretty incredible because you can see everything like Brooklyn right now and the East River and most of Manhattan. Great experience. I highly suggest checking it out. And one of the things I didn't mention is that, of course, it's one of the most romantic spots of all time. Not to mention a romantic spot to maybe perhaps pop the question if you're dating somebody. In full disclosure, that's exactly why I planned this trip. So there it is. Oh, and she did say yes, so thank you. So if you're a big fan of the Empire State Building and you want to stay close to it, I recommend this beautiful place right here. It's the Langham Hotel. They're famous for having beautiful views of said Empire State Building. You can see it right there. I'm going to head inside so you can see what this hotel is all about, see their $1 million views of the Empire State Building right now. So let's go check it out. All right, you come in this beautiful lobby of the Langham Hotel, and you're greeted by artwork like this and people like this. This is my friend Richard. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. So first time at this lovely hotel. Why don't you talk about it real quick and the proximity of it, because we're right in the heart of Manhattan, it feels.
Yeah, one of the ideal advantages that we have is our location right here in Midtown Manhattan. We're very fortunate to have our address right on Fifth Avenue.
Pretty prestigious address, right?
It is. It's wonderful. And our location is very advantageous to someone who wants to walk and get out along Fifth Avenue and the surrounding neighborhoods. and visit the Empire State Building. It's a block and a half south of us.
Yeah, you're kind of famous for that in terms of the whole south of the building here faces that, where you have some incredible views in some of the rooms where I got to say, especially at night when the Empire State Building is all lit up and doing its thing, it's spectacular. It's a wonderful spot to be in.
That's correct. Almost every room on the south side of the building looks right at the Empire State Building. Our 3 penthouses that on the 25th, 6th, and 7th floor, which are the highest floors of the hotel, have an ideal view of the building, and at night that's really spectacular. You can see all the way down to the new Freedom Tower in the downtown area. When you walk out of the hotel, if you turn left going north, you've got Bryant Park, you've got the New York Library.
Which is kind of right behind it, right?
Correct, yes.
All walking distance.
All walking distance, and a little further up Fifth Avenue, you've got Saks Fifth Avenue. 1 block to the east is Madison Avenue, where you've got the Morgan Library and Museum. You walk south, and again, you can get down to Flatiron and all those neighborhoods down in there with all the shopping and dining. It's really a spectacular location to be able to get out and just go on an adventure.
Right. I mean, I think that's like one of the best things about, I do these segments where I take my segment on the road, and that's what I'm doing today. And walking even over to Grand Central Station up to Central Park, where you just kind of wander around and get lost. And you make the loop. I made it all the way down to like the High Line,
Correct.
Walking through the city. But then, of course, you walk through the West Village, Greenwich Village. But it's all walkable, and you can take a train just about anywhere in this city. But one of the great proximities is to Broadway, where we're at here. And Broadway is just reopened, and it's going to hopefully be fully reopened as we move along, though it's super close, right?
That's one of the most exciting things that's happening in the city right now is the reopening of Broadway. Again, it's just, a 10-15 minute walk, and you get to where all the shows are and see all the excitement and what's going on there, and it's really, really exciting.
And you also mentioned that you have your own very own Broadway tour of Old Broadway that kind of happens right around the hotel, right?
That's correct. We partnered with a local tour company who specializes on Broadway tours, and the interesting point is that this neighborhood 50 years ago was the Old Broadway.
And we're in Midtown, for people who might not know.
Correct. And so he starts out here at the hotel and takes his customers all the way up to the new Broadway and brings them back down. And it's just, a wonderful hour and a half, 2 hours of history of Midtown Manhattan.
That's amazing. And this is a great spot to anchor yourself if you're going to be here for a few days. You have the nice terrace. You have Michelin-starred restaurant here on property.
Right.
I mean, you guys kind of have everything all in one, and you're really close to all the public transportation.
Absolutely. And, I encourage anybody that wants to visit here for the first time. This is a great home base. Perfect time of year in the fall now. The weather's nice. It's a little cool. You can get out and walk all day and not dwell with the heat or anything like that. So it's a fun time to be in the city.
Absolutely. For people who want information about the hotel and the history that you have here and the unique opportunities that are here, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Well, we're online, the Langham Hotel, New York. You can go to our reservations system, and they have all the information in that site as well. You can call the hotel directly, and our concierge will help you make any arrangements that you might want to make.
Perfect. Well, Richard, thank you very much. I am going to do exactly what you said and go for a walk today. So I won't be back for probably 7 hours, but the Empire State Building is on my agenda today. So thank you, sir, very much.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Absolutely.
One of the best things walking through any city in general, but especially here in New York City, is you walk around and you kind of find random things or things that, you love in life, like horror movies or an ode to horror movies. So I'm at the Slaughtered Lamb Pub right here off of 4th Street. And if you've seen the movie American Werewolf in London, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it is everything that you would want out of a bar and more that has to do with werewolves, horror movies, and the whole thing. So I had to mention that. So we'll see what I get into next.
Well, speaking of things that you can get into while walking New York City, one of them's got to be the Firehouse from Ghostbusters, right? I mean, it is in the heart of the Tribeca neighborhood in New York City at Old Hook and Ladder Company 8. It's located at 14th North Moore Street, and the intersecting street is Varick Street. So you should be able to check that out, but it's pretty easy to distinguish because it's got the little symbols of the Ghostbusters all around it. It's in a really great neighborhood. Everything kind of totally walkable from any kind of public transportation or whatnot. But you can just walk up there and take some pictures, so it's pretty fantastic. Speaking of taking pictures, you want to head over to the Battery, formerly known as Battery Park. It's a 25-acre public park located at the southern tip of Manhattan with an exceptional view of the Statue of Liberty. Check that out. So if you're making your way around the city, you definitely need to check out the High Line, especially if you're on the west side of Manhattan. It's a former railway that used to be operated by the New York City Central Railroad. It is very much like the 606 here in Chicago. It's about 1.5 miles long. It's elevated, so you have this great unique view of the city as you make your way through a lot of architecture and artwork, and all the plants are native to the area of New York City. They took a lot of time with it, very similar to the 606 in Chicago. It's a fun way to see the city. Well, if you've never been to New York, I gotta say, if you have never been here, you gotta do it one time in your life, and that's check out Times Square. And I'm sitting in the middle of Times Square right now, and yes, it is a gigantic tourist attraction, but it's also historic. This is where a New Year's Eve ball drop happens and all that fun stuff. And you've seen it in about 4,000 movies, I feel. But either way, I thought I'd give you just a little panoramic view of Times Square in New York. Let me see if I can pop that out there. Yeah, look at this. So this is Times Square in New York. One of the things you got to do if you've never been here, doesn't cost a thing, you just kind of walk here. There's trains everywhere, but it's right off of Broadway, so if you want to go see a show, you can do that. But it's a cool thing to check out. There's the ball drop from 2021, and hopefully 2022, all things going according to plan. But that is Times Square right here in the heart of New York City, 44th and Broadway. So we're going to go a couple more things before I head out of here to Jersey. So that's coming up next. We'll see what I get into. Maybe the friend's place or whatnot. We'll see. All right. All right, so this place is awesome. And folks who have been to New York City before might know it as the Fat Cat. Now it's reopened, called the Cellar Dog. And there has never been a place like this that I've ever been to. It's 9,000 square foot basement. It's got games like checkers, pool, chess, ping pong tables, shuffleboard, and even foosball. And the real cool thing is at night, it turns into like this jazz club right out of like a movie where you have pool tables and whatnot, but this great experience where you can go in there in the beginning of the night, hang out, and then enjoy some jazz later in the evening. And no trip to New York is complete, especially if you're a pop culture person, than going to check out the Friend's House. It's a quick, easy internet search. It's in the Village area of the city, right at 90th and Bedford Street. And it is exactly what you think it is. It's the outside of the Friend's House. Obviously, they didn't film there, but nonetheless, still cool to check out. And it's all walkable in this area of New York City because you go from one neighborhood to another within a matter of minutes, because you can walk everything here, which makes it really great. And that's how you kind of stumble onto places like the Blue Note Jazz Club, a legendary jazz club in New York City, even something like the Comedy Cellar, which conveniently is right across the street. There's all sorts of the bar life is hopping there in New York City. And as you wind your way through the city, then you find random things that never would expect to see, like the Museum of Sex. So there you go. Even the middle of Greenwich Village in New York City. Look who still reigns king. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Just so we're all aware. Yeah. And it's about as iconic as the Empire State Building itself, you have Central Park. And it's this giant park in the middle of New York City, located between the Upper West and Upper East sides of Manhattan. It's the 5th largest park in the city by area, covering 843 acres. So a pretty impressive sight. You get to walk through this place, and there's little areas that you get to see that you maybe didn't even exist before, like this fountain that you're looking at right here. There's music playing, people walking around. But one of the coolest things about it is the mall. You've seen it in countless movies, and it is as grand as you would think. It's this walkway that goes right through the heart of Central Park. And if you're looking for some pop culture things as well, and if you're a big Beatles fan, you'll appreciate the John Lennon tribute they have. It's the Imagine mosaic that they have right in the middle of the park. And other things that you've seen in movies throughout the years is the boathouse in Central Park. It's tucked away a little bit, but there's a pond in the middle of this park with weeping willows gracing it all around. But it's a really cool experience to check out. And if you have a second, grab a tea there or grab a lunch, because it's definitely worth the trip to check out here in New York City. So from Chicago to Manhattan to Westfield, New Jersey. And why Westfield, New Jersey? That's because Lion's Roar Brewing Company is here, started by a South Side Chicagoan who happens to be my best friend, and that's why I'm here. But I thought I'd turn in a trip because it's a cool story how they started a brewery in the middle of the pandemic. Empire State Building, Manhattan, Central Park, the Friends Place, awesome place called the Slaughtered Lamb, which for Halloween folks, you're gonna know what that means. I appreciate you watching. TBARNAS at WGNTV.com. That's TBarnes at WGNTV.com. See you guys later. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Here I am at Lion's Roar. Go ahead, finish your beer, guys, because I'm going to catch them in mid-drinking. So this is Tim and Corinne Grant. And full disclosure, this guy I've known since I was about 5 years old. Rocked it since Payless East, Payless South, Stagg High School, the whole thing. And this is why he moved to Jersey. I'm kidding. I love you, Corinne. And Tim, you've been in Jersey for how long now? About 10 years. 10 years?
11.
11 years. 11 years, and you never were really a big brewmaster when you lived back in Payless, Chicago area. But tell me why you got into brewing specifically and how it relates to your dad.
You know, my dad and I did a homebrew kit, and we just decided to say, hey, let's brew some beer just for fun. And from that, we realized that, like, this is a cool thing. Like, let's continue to do that. You do it in Chicago, I'll do it in New Jersey. And it turned out to be, it became a thing where, like, outside of work and everything else that I needed a hobby. So I was like, you know, I think I'm just going to do it for a hobby because we had our first kid, and I just needed the time to get away, and beer was it.
And it was a good excuse to get away. Corinne, like, what did you think when you, like, who's like, no, let's do this big time. Like, let's open a brewery. Was that your idea? Was that your dad, Tim? Where did it come from?
It's a lot of everything at that point. You know, my dad quit, went on his own, and said, you know, life is short. It's too much. We have number 2 coming. You know, it was like I want to get away from it.
And you're talking about just like the traveling down it, because we're in Westfield, New Jersey, which is about a 45-minute train ride to Manhattan, right? And you used to work downtown, like with Chelsea Pier, right? Is that right? Did I get that right? Look at me, sounding like I know about Jersey and New York. And so, Corinne, like, were you like, no, we're gonna open a brewery. Let's do this whole thing and change our lives.
You know, he started this hobby, and I think, you know, when Tim does something, he goes all in. So it quickly went from like a brew kit, real easy, to like, I'm learning, you know, I'm gonna learn how to get grains and how this all works and the science behind it. To me, it was so much of a science experiment. I didn't know how he did it, but like quickly, he was very good at brewing beer. So a little time went by, and his father unfortunately got sick with cancer. And it was during those 5 months of that struggle that fire got lit for Tim, where this is a hobby, but everything is telling me this is something that we should do. And I was always like, oh, we've got 2 young kids, like, yeah, maybe later, sure. And then it just became very apparent, and I started getting that same feeling of like, let's just do it.
And you guys did just do it, except there was one little hiccup in the whole thing. And that was a little tiny hiccup, but you guys roughed it because, I mean, it is the pandemic, and you guys were supposed to open like right at the beginning of it or right at 2019. But, you know, license and laws and construction being what it being, you opened up this year, Super Bowl Sunday around that time, in the middle of the pandemic. And here we are sitting. It's insane here because it's Oktoberfest. You guys have made it to Oktoberfest. And I think it's a really cool story because your motto is this
pride of the South Side, which kind of works as double entendre because Tim's from the South Side Chicago, and we are on the South Side of Westfield, right?
Yes, it's funny, moving to this town, they had a similar North Side, South Side thing. The way, obviously, South Side Pride over here from Chicago, I learned it very quickly.
It's kind of just bred with us. It just happened.
It is. So right away, I saw that opportunity. We lived on the south side of town. We purposely wanted the brewery on the south side of town. So it was just like a perfect tagline for us.
So, for people who are taking a trip to Manhattan or anywhere in New York or Jersey, Westfield, New Jersey, that's what part of New Jersey, like for people who might not know, like north, south, central, where?
More northern central Jersey.
Northern central Jersey, about 45-minute train ride. People who want information, what's the best way for them to know about it?
They can go to our Instagram, or Lions Roar Brew on Instagram, or Lions Roar Brewing on Facebook.
Oh, I buried the lead. Lions Roar is also a name that you guys were inspired by your son Jackson, right?
Yeah, it started with him, and the howl he gave out of the wound was insane. So he was our inspiration. He was a baby when we kind of did all this. So when we knew that he had good beer, we needed a good name. And that one was the one that
was it.
that
Lions
struck
Roar.
it. But it's funny. I feel like it's turned into a more meaning for us as the years have gone by and what we kind of overcame to get this place open. So
Yeah, that roar overcame the pandemic. Here we are going into the holidays, kicking it off in style with Oktoberfest. People are having a great time. I love you guys. I wish you nothing but the best. Come down and have a beer because my buddy Tim and my sister-in-law, more or less, she made it, they made it, they're going to have a beer. I got to find my beer, but cheers to you guys. We'll get that down. Lions Roar Brew in Jersey. Thanks, guys.